Welcome to the Public Voice Salon. We are an open dialogue on education, the arts, and social change. My name is John Bredin. I am an educator and a writer. And in the home of Grigory Gurevich today, Grigory is just an amazing, I would call him a Renaissance man, the ultimate Renaissance man. He is a painter, he is a sculptor, he is a designer, he is an illustrator, he is an inventor, he is a bookmaker, he is a teacher, and his apartment is just this repository of aesthetics and art and texture and color and beauty. And Claudia and I discovered Grigory on the Jersey City art tour a couple of years ago, and this is always one of the highlights for us of the Jersey City art tour, is just to be in Grigory's home with him, and he resonates this cultural spirit that is very, very classical and also modern. And we're going to have a whole hour with Grigory and talk about his biography, where he came from. He's from St. Petersburg, Russia. His father was an architect who designed a city called Dubna, which was one of the great cities of science in Russia. So from that, Grigory picked up some architectural style, and then he emigrated to the United States. But we're just going to begin with Grigory, and thank you, first of all, for opening up your home to us, Grigory, and for all the wonderful education work you've done, and for your aesthetic work, which brings so much wonderful beauty into the world. And how did you get to be the person you are today? Let's start with Russia, St. Petersburg. What was it like growing up?
When I was a little boy, we were in Riga, and suddenly war started, and my mother brought us to Leningrad at this time from Riga, where my father had architectural job in Riga. And a group of children, 40 of them and 6 parents, they sent to Siberia by train and then by truck. And my childhood was in Siberia and then Ural Mountains. And in 1945, when war ended, I heard on the radio in Chelyabinsk, where my mother brought me to the market. At this time, plane was flying over this market and dropping leaflets, and on the radio, commentator was talking that war is ended, and everybody was kissing and hugging each other. And my mother bought me a small ice cream. And this is how war ended for me at this time. And then we came to Moscow, and I came to first class in Moscow for half year or a couple of months. Then we arrived to Leningrad and stayed with my father's sister in her dining room for about 1 year until my father received apartment in Leningrad. And I got education from Mukhina School of Fine Industrial Arts. It's a 6 years education, and I became an architect, interior designer, and designed a couple of interesting projects for me at this time with very famous architects, Spiransky and other architects, very famous people. And I became involved in pantomime later, influenced by Marcel Marceau. And it just happened that way that I created professional pantomime company. We performed in Arkady Raykin Theater. Arkady Raykin was very, very famous Russian actor and performer, satirist, the most famous person in Soviet Union. This was a recommendation by Marcel Marceau, whom I already knew because when I created pantomime company, we met Marcel Marceau in 1961, and then I created a professional company of 4 people from 100 people, which I had in an amateur company. And Marcel Marceau suggested me to come to Moscow with my group and recommended to talk to most famous people. This is how I became actors in Raykin Theater in Leningrad. and participated in many different movies and theater productions in Leningrad. But when we finished our work with Arkady Raikin, it was really no job over there. I created several pantomime companies where all my actors became directors of pantomime companies. And it just happened. I will not give details of what happened right now, but I came to United States as a result of all this movement in Russia.
Amazing. We want to try to educate our audience too about what these things are, and people who might not be familiar, because part of the goal of our show is aesthetic education of the public. So pantomime, this idea of silent movements on stage, right? And it goes back to ancient Greece, right? But I think it was really Marcel Marceau who made it very popular, although also in silent movies, when you had Charlie Chaplin, right? They had to do pantomime because they didn't have any sound, so you had to have very articulate gestures. What's amazing about you, Grigory, is how you just move back and forth between different art forms, painting and sculpture and architecture, and then into the theater. You see Marcel Marceau in 1961, and you're so struck by it that it changes your life, and you decide to study pantomime for 8 years. What was that moment like? Did you know that this was going to be your life passion when you saw Marcel Marceau?
Well, my interest to the theater was going from second grade of the school. We had theater in the school, theater, not department, but theater program, after school program. And one of the actresses from Gorky Theater, Gorky Theater was pretty established and famous theater in Leningrad at that time.
Max Gorky was a great writer, wasn't he?
By his name, actually, this theater was named Gorky Theater. Yes. And one of the actresses, she leads theater after school program, where I was one of the what calls actors over there. We staged Chekhov's different plays, like Marriage, Chekhov's, and some other plays, like Bear, Medved. And we had very good group in the school, and we performed later when I was already in 9th grade or 10th grade. We performed in variety of schools, and everybody thought that we are professional actors. We had costumes, we had good directions, and that was fun. That was great. So I was really in the theater. I was ready to something like Marcel Marceau coming to Soviet Union. And when he came, my mother offered me tickets. Her husband purchased the tickets, and we came to Первая Пятилетка, to one theater in Leningrad. And first time in my life I've seen professional pantomime. But when I was a student, I did pantomime, which I didn't know what it calls. It was the name of pantomime. It was very funny, very primitive. When several our students in our academy, now it's Academy of Fine Industrial Arts in Russia, but we played very primitive act when artist was inspired by some angel who came to his presence and inspired him to do artwork, and that was our pantomime, kind of. So when I've seen Marcel Marceau, I was really touched by his performance and inspired, and I wanted to study his movement on my own.
So then, that's interesting. And then you did the white face, and you did the silent gestures on stage.
Not gestures. It was performance. Yes, I put.
Is it an actual play?
That was. See, it was. We didn't perform gestures. So you cannot perform gestures. Gestures. It's a just natural act of human being. But exercise, which Marcel Marceau. Or he didn't show exercise, but I just start to study his pieces, actually, his plays. He has short plays, and it was like short demonstrations, introduction to pantomime, like how man captures the butterfly and how he relates to butterfly that he captured, how he picks up flower. That was like exercise of pantomime. And I studied that, and I created my short program after Marcel Marceau. And I studied movement, how to walk in pantomime style and pantomime fashion. And I studied on my own between two chairs. I was possessed with pantomime. That's how I did that. Yes, but I put play later. It's not gesture.
Yeah,
You don't perform gesture. I put plays.
Okay.
And we performed plays. And I wrote librettos and so on. This was professional level. Nothing close to what I've seen in the United States. When I came to the United States, I've seen mimes performing on the streets, and I was amazed that a pantomime came to the street level to collect like $1 or 25 cents in a pocket instead of doing theatrical performance, what I did in Russia. When Marcel Marceau performed, he performed in the theater, and it was full content, philosophical pieces and funny pieces and humoristic pieces, and creating the characters and relationship between characters and nature and between people and so on. So I was very, very impressed with his performance. I was impressed how deep pantomime can go and communicate with audience, with people, and how can pantomime talk about philosophy and social issues and issues of nature and relationship between nature and human being.
Certainly Marcel Marceau, when he came to the United States, performed in front of sold-out audiences. I mean, it was quite a phenomenon at that time. But you mentioned also your philosophical aspect, and I found it interesting in researching you how you mentioned Arkady Rakin, who was in Russia the leading comedian, one of the leading comic. He was like the Charlie Chaplin of Russia, or maybe the Jerry Seinfeld of today, right? Because he was that popular, and you were able to connect with him, and you merged your pantomime theater under his State Theater of Satire he had, right? Now, what I found interesting is that Arkady Rakin, he said things that were controversial. He actually said things that were against the Soviet government, but was able to get away with it because he was so famous. Exactly. Was that true?
Absolutely. I remember myself leaning towards radio, because the radio was one of the major sources of communication of government with people. And what people were listening at that time in Soviet Union, it was radio. It was not television at that time. And when Arkady Rakin, who really had a very long way from his original performances, when he performed in parks and park theaters on the streets, and came to the fame finally, people were coming to, everybody in Soviet Union were coming to the radio to listen to Arkady Rakin, because his performances were not only funny, but they were sharp, they were satirical, they were criticizing negative parts of existence in Soviet Union. And he came to the point when government was not able to make him silent, because he was so critical to many aspects of life in Soviet Union, that but because of fun characters, because of funny performances, he was able to achieve this freedom of speech in Russia. He was an amazing actor, and I was lucky to perform in his theater. I never could believe that I will work with him when I was like 16, 17 years old, listening to him on the radio, and suddenly I'm in his theater with my theater company.
Wow, it's interesting. One of our guests on our show was a great American comedian, Pat Cooper, great Italian-American, Pasquale Caputo. I got to interview him. I've admired him for years, and it felt so wonderful to be in his presence and we also had as a recent guest on our show, Joe Franklin, who invented the TV talk show. He passed away last week. And it was just, I understand what you say, when you admire people for their work, for their art, and you get to meet them and interact with them, it's really quite a thrill. But Arkady Rakin reminds me a little bit about Tolstoy. because Tolstoy, the great Russian writer, was also critical of the government in a way. His writings were critical, and yet they left him alone because he was so famous, he was so popular. Now, when you were with Reagan, he sort of protected you a little bit. However, there reached a point where you had to get out of Russia because of your viewpoints, and then you came to the United States. What was that like, coming to the United States? You wound up in Brooklyn Heights, and you were at the St. George Hotel, which is still there, with $90 in your pocket. Talk about coming to Brooklyn with $90.
Well, $90 at that time was 90 rubles.
Okay.
Yeah, the ruble was almost equal to dollar at that time. So it was like not a lot of money, but it was some money. But I came not completely legal way, because the way at that time to leave Russia, to immigrate to United States was to present a fictional letter from Israel that you have relatives in Israel, and then my mother arranged that with somebody who was leaving Soviet Union, and she said, could you please send a letter that my son has relatives in Israel, and this what happened. So I got this letter, and that was organization Nayana and Hayas in the United States, which sponsored people who were living in Soviet Union at that time. So it was a little bit easier, because with $90 I practically couldn't exist in the United States. I also didn't speak English at that time, so I was silent, if I can say.
Ah, like a mime in a way. Okay. Wow.
Exactly. So when I came to the United States, I had interpreter, Alenka Linkstad, who became a long-time friend of mine, and at the beginning she translated everything what I wanted to express by myself, but I eagerly started to study English language here by watching. I purchased television as soon as I earned some money. I purchased television set, and I was listening to the radio in English language, and this is how my English language came slowly. On 4th of months of existence in Brooklyn Heights, in very poor Hotel St. George, where a room cost only $90, I've met Steve, who worked in a frame shop, and he spoke a little bit Russian, and he was an actor also, amateur actor, and he suggested me to give a lecture in English language about pantomime. So pantomime helped me to make first lecture with these actors in Brooklyn Heights. And that led me to one woman who knew Morelli. Morelli had his studio on 14th Street and 6th Avenue, and he offered me to teach pantomime in Morelli Ballet Studio on the corner of 14th Street and 6th Avenue. And this is where I established my first pantomime company. But at first I had only one student, the son of my friends. And it was nothing really to pay to Morelli, having only one student. So he suggested me to perform in front of dancers, and when I performed in front of dancers, then I got right away 6 people, students of mine, who studied pantomime with me in Morelli Ballet. This was my beginning of teaching here.
Wow, it's an amazing story. You know, we talk a lot on our show about the importance of interaction, of conversation, of these unexpected meetings where you met this guy, Steve, who was an actor who got you going and encouraged you to give a lecture, and how that sparked something, right? And even coming to your apartment, I find, on this art tour, I find there is a convivial atmosphere in this place around you, Grigory, that you do create this sort of reaching out energy, this interactive spirit, and And you were saying earlier, as we were speaking earlier, and you talked about, because here we are in Jersey City, right near Van Voorst Park, and at the time when you moved to Jersey City, this was a kind of a rundown area, right? And now it's transformed and blossomed into this aesthetic paradise, I would say. It's just amazing. I'm going to tell our audience that every year in November they have the Jersey City Art Tour, and the map comes out, and you get to go into people's homes and see this incredible ferment of art. And it's not like going to some sterile gallery where you're just looking. I mean, I know Chelsea is what it is. It's the art capital of the world, blah, blah, blah. But you don't feel the coziness when you go there. Here you feel coziness and you feel social interaction. And you were saying how you were a spark of that social interaction in Jersey City, which led to the artistic renaissance. Maybe you could mention that.
Well, when I was in Hotel St. George, somebody came to Hotel St. George to recruit people to go to George City to look at what is happening here. The George City, I had no idea what is George City, what is this New Jersey. I have no idea about that, but I decided to check it out because I was looking to move from Hotel St. George. I stayed there for 2 years almost, and it was like welfare hotel. The only few people lived there, and 24 floors were empty. It was like Titanic drowned there. There was 24 floors, amazing. That's a separate story, absolutely interesting story, incredible story. So I couldn't find anything in New York City. It wasn't at all expensive for me. I didn't want to go to Staten Island. I didn't want to go to Hoboken, and I was stuck. And suddenly, George City. What is this George City? I'm coming here, and I see several buildings that are in process of being restored here. And Artur Goldberg, who purchased all these buildings for little money, I guess, like full block of buildings, he restored this. And I found apartment which in half year I can stay here, and I like this very much. It was like a dream coming true. And nobody wanted to move to George City. Nobody, like when people in New York City hear the word George City in New Jersey, they were terrified by this word because it was very dangerous city at that time. But it was very close to New York City. And in half year, I decided to move here, and I found incredible apartment, 2 floors, just amazing place to be. And I suggested Artur Goldberg, when he called me to visit him, to have a center, to establish center in George City, Center of Art. That was my idea. And he established Case Museum, which became place where I could gather my friends and bring other people. And I always created my environment for myself and for my friends, and this is how it's happened.
And it's a very open and democratic environment where you feel you come in to your home, Grigory, and there's not a feeling of being intimidated by the art. A lot of people are intimidated by art because of, they feel like maybe they're not intelligent enough to discuss it in a certain way. And we like to liberate our audience to be able to make their own interpretations of works and not to put the art on a pedestal. I come out of a tradition, John Dewey, who said that there has to be a transaction between the viewer, to perceive the work of art, and then something comes alive between the viewer and the work. But if you're so afraid and you put the artwork way up high and you worship it, then you destroy that sense of what might happen, that you don't feel free to make your own interpretations of the work. And I feel that sense of freedom here with you. I feel a sense of caring, and it's in your good nature, your conviviality, your openness. The beauty of this block of Barrow Street in Jersey City with the Van Voorst Park right there, in the springtime, in the summer, it's blossoming and blooming, and it's just like an aesthetic paradise.
Yes, when I came here, it was not aesthetic paradise at all.
Yes.
George City was really a disastrous place, and by creating Case Museum, Artur Goldberg created a place where artists and people, friends of artists, could gather, can come together, can look to the art, can enjoy conversation between each other. It was no question of buying art at this time. Nobody was purchasing any art because you could buy house across the street right from my window. This house was sold for $10,000 only, but previously the owner, Lev Neumann, I think his name, he purchased that for maybe for $5,000. This building, you can imagine, if people can buy art, of course, $5,000 also at that time was pretty big amount of money. But who will talk about buying art at this time in Jersey City, in New York, possibly, of course. But in Jersey City, nobody was thinking about buying art, and artists were exhibiting in Liberty State Park, on the fence, in Van Wars Park, which is also was poor. You wanted to add something to that, right? I guess.
Well, I just wanted to say that Jersey City was like a diamond in the rough, and in the way you and I are both educators, right? So we look at our students as diamonds in the rough, as bringing out from within, and that potentiality and that sense of possibility. One of my favorite quotes about art is by Emily Dickinson, and she says that imagination lights the slow fuse of the possible. So that sense of possibility and space that's created by art, that you can move through, that you can see yourself as maybe being different, that you can think of your things as if they could be otherwise, that's wonderful. But I want to now use what we have left in our time, Grigory, because we have a nice grounding in terms of your biography and who you are and some of the background, to move through the space that we're in your home, and to capture some of the work itself, to continue our dialogue. But as a man of the theater, I also have theatrical background in my family. So let's get up and let's move through the theater of your apartment and capture some of the work. Okay. The magic begins when you walk in the door of Grigory's home here, and we're going to go up the stairs, the magic staircase, into this aesthetic paradise in Jersey City. And here we go. There's Grigory, okay, to greet us. Hi, Grigory.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome here.
Oh, it's always so good to be here. And let's take a look around at some of the work now. We'll see the bookshelf. I noticed Nabokov. You have Nabokov, who's a great Russian man of literature.
It's mostly art books here. Mostly art books, yes.
Okay.
There are several books here with history of American art, American artists, like two volumes are here, and some of my work is here inside of this book, and art books, and then artwork, frames, and non-framed artwork, and framed artwork in the process, still life for my students. Some of that is finished, some of that is just in the process, art materials, and everything, whatever belongs to art. Mostly my apartment is a source for creating artwork, and created artwork, framed artwork, exhibited work, and not exhibited work which came from exhibition, work which is going to exhibition. By the way, there's a clown here.
Clown. Let's,
Yes.
okay.
And
Let's see the clown. Now, I want to tell you that one of my favorite literary critics or theorists or philosophers, or all three, is a man named Mikhail Bakhtin, who wrote a lot about the importance of the clown and the fool in the public space and how that relates to literature. So clowns are very important also in my pedagogy.
very good. I'm glad you mentioned about that, because I noticed that during my life in United States, and I had a television. Now I don't have television, and I don't see a lot of stuff relating to what's happening in the world. But the clown is a character which was very popular in Soviet Union, in Russia, and in Europe. And United States, I noticed some people they are afraid of clowns. And some children are crying even when they see clown. Yes, can you imagine that? I had performance in Case Museum, in the Museum of Russian Art, with my friends, clowns and mimes. Actually, they are mimes, and some children were crying or afraid of mask. Yes, I noticed that television popularized clown as a negative characters. Yes, and they used the clown in crime dramas and movies. And I was upset about that because clown is a friendly character. This clown educates children good things and makes people laugh and make people feel sorrow about some bad things what happen with human beings. And here I noticed that a completely different reaction, and I'm sorry about that. I think it should change here.
Many people say that in America, most of our clowns go into politics. So now, especially if you watch the Republican primaries should be coming up soon. So we'll have plenty of clowns. Let's take a look. Let's walk through the space now. Two men of theater here, walking through the space. Let's look at the clown first. This clown is going to wind up in St. Petersburg, right?
Should I lighten this? Should I put light on that? Yes. This clown about maybe 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Because my friend, my ex-student actually, who is my very good friend, like many other my students of pantomime and art students, he called me. He said, "Do you have a clown, sculpture of clown? Because we'll have exhibition in museum, in Russian museum in St. Petersburg." And I said, "No, I don't have a clown sculpture." He said, "Well, if you could have sculpture of clown, we can exhibit it in museum, in Russian museum, because it will be exhibition in September." I said, "Okay, I will make it clown." So I made the clown from the paper because I was thinking how to send it to Russia, how heavy weight it will be if I will do bronze sculpture and so on. So I made it from cardboard, which I collected through many years, leftovers board from my framing of my watercolors and drawings. And here is a clown, and it is going to Soviet in St. Petersburg. And it will be exhibited in Russian Museum. And I think it's interesting work for myself. I had great pleasure to create it.
Well, you know, one of my favorite comedians is Jerry Lewis. Yes. Jerry Lewis, who was held in very high esteem by the French, by the way. You know, Marcel Marceau was also French. So there's something in that clown, there's an intellectual aspect of clowns and fools and rogues that a lot of people just dismiss that. Exactly. And I'm reading Dostoevsky.
You mentioned about that, right?
I'm actually reading Dostoevsky now, The Idiot. I'm about halfway through The Idiot, but I read Mikhail Bakhtin, his book on Dostoevsky first, and he talks a lot about that public square, again, like I said, the fool, the rogue. And nowadays we look at our public squares and I find there's a silencing going on. Notice the people with the iPods. Notice that kind of turn towards technology and away from human beings. I think we need more clowns. We need more rogues. We need that kind of spirit of theatricality, of aliveness, exactly. That the arts also bring a state of wide awakeness to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, life is a theater. Life is a theater, and we have to be critical about life, and we have to laugh about negativity of life. We have to make satire on what's wrong, what's happening wrong around us, and also not to be serious about that. Because,
all the time, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to laugh at life and at friends and at politicians and everything else. And we have to be critical. That's what is important. This is what clowns are doing.
Yes. And the clowns actually speak wisdom if you read Shakespeare plays, okay? And Shakespeare also said, which something you just said also, that all the world is a stage, okay? I wrote a book called My Life as a Novel, which looks at that sort of interconnection between life and art. Now, you actually wrote a book that's a very interesting book that is a combination of things. There's images, there's poetry. It's a very eclectic, kind of a strange book that's called Reflections, and
I
that.
didn't write it.
Oh, but you were a collaborator of that, yes.
Yes, I'm a collaborator with the writer, right.
And that book, by the way, is in the, I think that's the one that's in the Brooklyn Museum. That's in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, but in New York, it's also in the Public Library, the New York Public Library.
Correct.
So that's a very famous book. And the other book you did, you invented a book. You created a book and actually got a patent on a new kind of book called a manifold book, which is also a kinetic book.
Right.
What kind of book is that?
Kinetic book is a patent name for this book, kinetic book.
Yeah.
This book opens up in different directions, like vertical position and horizontal position. You can open pages of this book up and down, and on the right and on the left as well. It's a constructive kind of book, architectural book, if I can say. I call it magic book because it's when you show this book, it creates a magic. People cannot understand how. Some people ask me, do you use magnet in this book? And I don't use magnet in this book. It's just all paper. All paper. It's
and I think literature is magic too. So books, there's a magical aspect to books. I'm teaching literature this semester at Boricua College in Manhattan on 157th and Broadway. My students are mostly Latino kids, poor kids from the neighborhood.
7th Street, that's a population.
And I'm trying to help them come alive to the magic of literature. So you actually created a magical book also, and that book, I want our people to know that book now, there's a copy of it in the Brooklyn Museum, no, in Columbia University and the Brooklyn Museum.
Are in collection of Columbia University of Chicago.
Okay.
Right. One is in library of Brooklyn Museum.
Brooklyn Museum.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have many of these individual books. I never created edition, like big edition. I had only one book is 1 to 10, 10 to 1 is a 5 edition of 5. And this is what the Brooklyn Museum Library has that. And 3 different books in Chicago. Yes.
Channel 13 had that documentary on Thomas Edison last week. I don't know if you got the chance to see.
I don't have television.
You don't have television. See the answer, folks? Keep the TV so you can watch our show. But otherwise, there's not much on television these days. It's a wasteland, right? What'd you say? Or
well, for me, it's a waste time.
Okay.
I can say
because
I cannot say for everybody. I can say for myself only.
This is a busy guy. If you look at the apartment, you'll see amazing work. You've done exhibitions all over the United States, all over the world. You are a teacher. You taught in Newark. Now, you and I have this in common because you taught in the Newark School of Industrial Arts, and I also taught at Essex County College in Newark. And one day, on my way to work, I saw these sculptures. I was taking the light rail, and I was struck by these 7 sculptures of figures who were actually supposed to be from the 1930s.
1937, opening of subway in Newark. Yes.
And that's your piece. Talk about this is one of your most famous works.
Yeah, this is my concept. And I was a teacher in the Newark School of Fine Industrial Arts. I was a faculty member over there. I had students in my sculpture class, and our department assigned the students to participate in creating of these sculptures. I came up with the concept. I've staged my students and models in a position I wanted to create in a station over there. And we started to work on that in Newark School of Fine Industrial Arts.
Wow.
And it took 1.5 years, almost 2 years, to work on that piece. And while my students were in school, they participated in it. But in the summertime, I was completely alone, working on the sculptures and carving them and bringing them to finished position. And when students returned to classes next year, I can say, we finished that all these groups, and they were delivered to Penn Station. And unfortunately, one sculpture had broken legs, and we have to redo this work and so on. But it stays in New York Penn Station on the mezzanine level in bronze, now in bronze form.
Yes. What about me, Gregory? Could I pose for you? Maybe one of you. What do you think? You know, I could be your model. Let's.
Anybody can be model. We're all models.
We're all beautiful people, right? Now you capture the beauty of people, of physiognomy, of human beings. Let's take a look at some work. There's a beautiful woman behind us here. They look like they're mermaids or swimming in the ocean. Let's see if we could see. What is that piece?
This is actually part of history of my real life. It's not finished work. It's work in the process. When I was about 16 years old, I and my friends who were on the Black Sea in Russia, in Yalta, I found one woman. I discovered woman who was actually she drowned in the water. And after, I will not tell full story, but I told my friends I've seen person down on the bottom. Let's go and see what's happened. And I discovered that she drowned, and we picked her up, and I hold her in my hands, and I brought her on the beach. And it was happened that the tent was not far from place where I brought her, and I brought her to the tent, and they revived her. After that, yes, when I already was mime, I staged pantomime, Man and the Sea. I used movement of this woman who drowned over there. Girl, she was 16 years old this time. Here she's older a little bit. So I staged pantomime, and I used her movement in my pantomime. And later I decided to make a painting on that subject, but I added, for dramatic sense, I added shark over there. Yes, shark over there. And then three guys here, they are trying to bring her up to the surface. That was the story of this painting.
What year was this painting?
Well, I didn't have long hair at this time.
You had long hair?
I did not at this time. I didn't have long hair.
In the 60s?
I was hippie.
Look at this guy, former hippie.
Yes. I was hippie. I had very stylish pants, and once police even took me to the station with my girlfriend. We were dancing rock and roll. It was prohibited in Russia at this time.
No wonder they threw you out of Russia. You were a rock and roll hippie in Russia. Let's go up the stairs. Come on. This is the second magic staircase in Grigory's home. Let's walk up the stairs, and maybe this is another beautiful painting here.
This is acrylic painting. It's
acrylic.
Subject of Columbina and Harlequin and Pierrot. That's
Harlequin, right? Harlequin was a famous
Harlequin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Pierrot and Columbine. Columbine. Yes, that's a painting of that. There's acrylic painting done with mastichin, with brushless painting. Then pencil drawings. Several paintings are involved in these drawings. Then leather sculpture, unicorn, done by through impression of. Equus staged production on the Broadway. When I came to the United States, I've seen this production, and actually it relates to one of productions in Russia, Halstamer, which is story of the horse in Russia, where I was involved. I staged a movement for this. This is a poster for my brother who staged Gorky's Legend of Danko pantomime. And then what we see here,
I just want to tell our viewers it's important to know that Gregory works in a variety of mediums: acrylic paint, watercolor, drawing with pencils and ink, right? Okay, just to let people know.
This is leather sculpture, unicorn here. Then we have enamel painting relating to cosmic energy. And
don't trip on the wire, Gregory.
No.
Careful.
Okay. I feel it on my my leg.
Okay.
This is a portrait of over there on the top is a portrait of Marcel Marceau, which I sketch of him. I did in Pekin Hotel in Moscow when we came from Asia, where we performed for 6 months. Then we have here Vysotsky, Bard, Russian, very famous person. I did sketch of him. I was invited by Arkady Raikin to see his performance
let's let
in
Claudia
Moscow.
come up to the landing now. Let's let Claudia come up to the landing.
Here,
Okay.
here we have my poster pantomime. I did that in Russia while we were in the Arkady Raikin Theater, and Arkady Raikin signed my sketch to print in about 100 pieces, and it was when I came to sign up to Len Concert, their concert organization, I changed 100, I put 10, additional 0, and they printed 1,000 instead of 100.
And this is the bathroom right here. So on your way to the bathroom, you can get an aesthetic education like you would not believe. This is incredible.
Yes, here my performance and my actors' performance in the theater of Arkady Raikin here. This is myself and Lena Markova, who was one of my actresses from 4 actors who performed for 6 months in Asia. And here performances of my company in Arkady Raikin Theater. Right here, this is painting.
You never spoke on the stage. You never ever said a word.
No,
As a mime,
actually, as a mime, Marcel Marceau once spoke one word.
He did? What
yes,
word?
one
What
word.
word?
Yes.
He said the word yes. Oh, really?
Or no, I don't remember exactly.
I want to ask
because
you.
I did not see this.
I have a question, Greg. I have a question. After all those years of doing mime and not being able to speak on stage, did you have this urge to speak and make up for lost time and say a lot of things?
This is what we do right now. Exactly,
oh, this is it, right? Okay. Well, we might need another couple of hours because you have a lot to say. And are you still on the lecture circuit? May I ask?
Well, when I have my workshops on pantomime, for example,
okay,
then I talk a lot. You see, mimes talk a lot. My mimes talk much more than regular people. When we stage pantomime, we have to talk about character, about movement, how it's done, what this character feels inside, how he acts, and is it symbolical character or it's real character.
Okay.
It's a lot of different aspects of creating pantomime and characters and pantomime.
Okay, I have an idea. Listen, tell me what you think of this idea.
I like ideas.
Here's an idea. Okay,
Yes.
my idea is this. I do want to film you outside so we can get a sense of the block and the street where we're situated on. But before that,
I hope I will not block a block.
What was that?
I hope I will not block a block.
Block the block? We won't block. We'll hold up traffic because, there's not that much traffic. This is a very idyllic block, Barrow Street, right by Van Voorst Park. But here's what we do. What about we go down and back into the living room and give you 1 minute to be silent and be pantomime and give us a pantomime. Okay?
Just an interesting idea. I always wanted to do pantomime on the background of New York. So this will be just preliminary.
Okay,
yes,
there we go.
Be just
stay tuned.
Practice.
Okay, get ready. I wasn't sure if Gregory was going to do the pantomime by himself, but I thought to myself, I don't know how to do pantomime, but if you could teach me very quickly.
Yes, right. That would be fun. Exactly, right. Let's say.
How do we do this?
Very simple. We have to put this microphone for a while or give it away. For a second, right? Okay. Now this is what we do. First one, we will do a resistance exercise. Okay. Yes, we spread fingers, and now we resist. We push each other.
Do we touch?
Yeah, we touch. We push each other, right? Okay. You see? Okay. That's a real action, right?
Okay.
Real action.
Okay.
In pantomime, we do this much. Now we put hands down. For a while, watch what I will do, and you will repeat. Okay. We will put hands on the wall like this. Very good. Now we prepare to push the wall instead of shoving like this. So what happened when we push the wall?
We push the wall. We go back.
Go back, right?
The wall
stays on one place.
Okay.
So our hands and our palms stay in one place.
Okay.
You see, watch.
Stand.
So we put hands like
that.
here,
Okay.
and we pretend that we push the wall. What happened with the wall? If wall stays on one place,
back.
body moves back.
Body goes back.
Yes, right. You see, that's what happened.
Okay.
You see?
Ah.
Yes. You see?
Okay.
Like this. Right. Interesting, right?
Very good. Okay. Okay.
This how this.
That's the basic lesson of pantomime.
Basic lesson of pantomime.
Okay.
Let's say you take a thread.
Yeah.
Right? Did you take a thread in our
Thread
childhood?
and a needle, like.
Right, a needle. But we'll take only thread.
Okay.
And we'll hang the thread.
Hang the thread.
In the hands like this.
Okay.
See?
Yeah.
And now we take a thread and we try to make, from the thread, we make a wire.
A
How
wire.
can we make a wire?
Okay, I don't
Watch. So let's say we put thread upside down,
know.
like this,
Okay.
right? And now we can move
Up
thread up and down.
down.
Our hands should stay in the same place, right? Have to,
Yes,
have
they
the
should
same
be-
distance, right?
Yes.
Now watch, I will make a wire from the thread. Watch.
Okay.
You see, I will release
Let
that,
go.
and thread stays right here.
Oh.
You see, and it turns into wire.
Okay.
You see this?
It's-
Now,
it's-
if I will take
Uh-huh.
wire both ends like this,
Okay.
and I will put it in horizontal position, the distance between our hands should be the same, right? Right?
Yes.
And now watch, I will
okay.
bend it. When we bend the wire,
Okay.
we have to put some energy.
Energy.
And it turns into a circle, right?
Okay, a
You
circle.
see?
Okay.
Now,
Uh-huh.
you see?
Circle.
Now
Okay.
it's a circle.
There you go. Circle. Okay. Okay.
So you have to imagine that. You see?
The
When you imagine
imagination-
is very clear, and you translate it to your body movement,
Okay.
through your brain, to
Okay.
hands, to body movement. Now you have the wire.
A wire.
And
Okay.
you can open the circle.
open the
and
circle.
put it the
Open.
same bag,
Uh-huh.
and it stays as a wire.
Okay.
And you can extend it. You see, make it longer,
Longer.
right?
Okay.
And now it's a wire, much longer. So you can do anything you want with the movement.
Now, can you teach me to be a painter and a sculptor in 5 minutes?
In shorter
In
time.
shorter time.
Right.
This is a
You see,
teacher,
we are,
boy.
we are,
This-
we are human beings. If you can teach elephant to paint elephant,
Well, all I gotta say, that your students are very lucky to have you, sir. Very, very lucky. Now, we're gonna go outside now and get a sense of this beautiful home from the street. Okay? Just want to say it's a very cold day. This is February 1st, 2015. It's actually Super Bowl Sunday, but I'll tell you, to me, this was better than the Super Bowl. This is like the Super Bowl of art, okay? And you can't really appreciate it. Well, you appreciate the inside, but you got to get the outside. You got to get the street. This is a beautiful block here. It's gorgeous. It's aesthetic. You got the trees, which obviously in the spring will be blooming and blossoming. And tell us a little bit about the street and how this situates into your work and your sense of yourself as an artist.
Well, first of all, I prefer to rename today's day instead of Super Bowl to Super Art.
Super Art
Right.
Sunday! Yay! Officially, it is now Super Art Sunday.
Because
Thank you.
artists really, I'm not too much interested in Super Bowl.
Please, banging your heads with those helmets, it's
exactly.
it's
No,
very dangerous.
to watch somebody to roll the ball up, on the ground, and then I think it's nonsense. It's better to move brush against canvas than
There you go. There you go. Do something constructive.
than to watch somebody rolling ball on the
get
on the
drunk in the
grass,
bar.
and get drunk in the
Oh
bar,
my
drinking
God.
beer and paying so much money for nonsense.
Oh, please.
I think
Look
it's
at
a-
this
it's a-
brownstone. Claudia.
right.
Get a sense of the beautiful home here.
Exactly, right.
And there's some snow on the ground.
Nice day. Actually, it's not really very cold today. It's February 1st.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful day. And the park will be blooming
Let's
in
take a
the
look at the park.
spring.
This is Van
Yes.
Borst Park.
My friend Cliff Waldman,
Yeah.
who was living on Montgomery Street,
Okay.
he decided to take care of the park because park was disaster
Yeah.
when I came here, and it was no trees on this block,
Okay.
no trees like here. You can see one tree tilted here,
Yeah.
right near my house. That's only one tree was a tree when I moved to Jersey City. It was no trees here. Now it's considered as one of the best areas of Jersey City.
Okay.
Where I live right now, but it was really bad area. All apartments were robbed and broken in, and all jewelry of people who moved here to this block were stolen at that time. And my friends, many of them moved away. Other people came. And most of these people are Russian people who live here, because Artur Golbek, who created this apartment, he wanted Russian people to have cheaper apartment here and help them to survive here in Jersey City.
Yeah.
So Cliff Waldman created this beautiful park, which we can see as beautiful right now.
But I want to just quickly say that in terms of art, in terms of the affordability of apartments, I want this message to go out there to real estate people, to politicians, that you need to have affordable housing for artists. If you
Absolutely,
don't,
yes, it's
the
very
society is going to fall apart and it's going to become boring, right?
No, it will turn to cities like Detroit right now,
Yeah.
because this is what happened when city doesn't have art.
Yeah.
And it deteriorates practically. And artists create the city. This is what happened in your city when intelligent people, creators, dancers, musicians, directors, artists came here, and they created this area. Not real estate people,
No.
but artists created that. And this is important to move art into cities and to support art.
Absolutely. So talk about your mornings. Do you get up and go for coffee? Do you walk around?
Yes, I go to my kitchen. I make
You go
coffee.
to your kitchen and make coffee?
Or tea.
Okay.
And my friends are coming to have breakfast with me. I make wonderful pancakes from flour. And yes, I didn't have chance to do it today because yesterday I was in Museum of Russian Art. And today is a closing in Museum of Russian Art.
There, right? Margot Grant.
Right.
Sure.
Margot Grant is the director, and she makes closing of art show today from 3 to 5, so I have to be there as well.
Okay.
And we are completely involved in arts and busy with arts, and I'm doing the same.
Well, Grigory, I hope this is the beginning for us in terms of our collaborations, and I could even think in the future going forward we could have maybe a salon in your home if you invite people together
yes,
to have some discourse and dialogue on aesthetics. We have enough football, we have enough things in the popular culture.
We are not doing football in the house.
But no football in the house, but we will do art, we will talk about our interpretations of works,
exactly.
and we will talk about works that we've created past, present, and future. Best is yet to come.
But future is coming from our friends and from our children, from our creative people.
Yeah.
And I want to say about my son, he's just finished his musical, to write his musical.
Okay.
And in March we are going to have presentation of his musical, like reading. He will get...
What's it called?
I don't know how he named his musical at this moment, but he will tell about that.
Yes.
In about maybe 20 days we will do presentation, or in March we'll do presentation of his musical, possibly in Museum of Russian Art, and possible in Manhattan, in one space which I will keep secret for a while. Yes, secret.
There might be a KGB agent around here
That's the end of our conversation. Is a secret. So just wait for our next translation.
Okay.
Yes, and I will disclose my secret next time.
Next time you'll hear the secret from Grigory Gurevich, who is one of the great artists of our time, living in Jersey City, New Jersey. We feel such an honor and a privilege to have you on our show today, Grigory.
And I want to thank you very much for coming here and going in the terrible weather, snowy 1st of February.
And thanks to Claudia for filming us. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Okay.